Hi everyone, this is Kushal. I'm the founder and CEO of Knight Fintech. Knight Fintech is a new age digital banking infrastructure company focused on digital lending, co-lending and treasury management. So we started Knight Fintech with a vision to help banks transform their infrastructure. Banks typically face the problems of working with the legacy solutions. At the same time, the future of the banking looks like a collaborative banking where the banks want to collaborate with fintechs and the other smaller lenders. And that was one of the core problem statement that Knight Fintech wanted to solve. We became the pioneer and the market leader in India. Right now, we are working with more than 85 financial institutions, empowering more than 120 partnerships. We are currently live with about $5 billion in asset under management. So that has been the core proposition. So what essentially we did is we created the smart middlewares that kind of deeply integrate to the bank's core banking infrastructure and help them modernize and become compliant to, say, open banking standards, as well as to do the innovative things like, for example, embedded finance. So obviously, when you're working on the ground, there are different key learnings that we could identify. I think this entire model of collaborative banking was pretty new in India. We were pretty much we had a first mover advantage when we started that. We were able to help the banks in terms of how to modernize their banking infrastructure and be working very close to that. Also at the same time, being always vigilant in terms of the regulatory compliances and helping banks ensure that all the regulations, whether with respect to data privacy or information security or cyber security, is always been compliant for. And at the same time, that infrastructure is built for the future. Whenever we are adopting any technology and giving the technology to the banks, we ensure that the technology remains relevant for the next 10 years. And ensuring that everything should be into completely modular and API-based architecture, so that each of the component can be moved independently to the banks. No, I think GCC is a pretty unique and very interesting market. Regulatory environment is far more friendly. The banks are very much open to the innovation, and I think that makes it very, very interesting for us. And we have got some of the channel partners who are also helping us and also kind of coordinating with the banks and talking to the CXOs, talking to the business vertical heads, talking to the people, understanding that what are the specific pain points and what are the current solutions and what are the gaps into that. So I think in overall we are able to we have listed down that all the opportunities and the gaps into the existing solution providers. And that is kind of creating the opportunity for Knight Fintech. So we are pretty bullish for our future for Knight UAE. So if we talk about when we say the digital banking infrastructure, so I explained briefly. So we power the entire digital lending stack, right? So everything from origination to assessment and credit underwriting to the disbursements, then post disbursements, delinquency management, loan management systems, customer reporting, regulatory reporting. All of that is something which is being provided and empowered into a seamless platform, right? Each of the platform has got these different modules which can plug in together and kind of help transform the bank. Not only that, we further extend this digital infrastructure layer to help the banks work with the different partners, right? So that's something which we have already pioneered, and the concept, right? So think of it like an embedded finance, right? You got the internet platforms, you got the different kind of places where you got the customers, and banks are in need of the customer. So in net, what we are talking about is creating that infrastructure layer that helps meet the supply of the capital, distribution of capital. So I think back in India also, we have been working very closely with the ecosystem, with all the relevant stakeholders from fintech community, from banks, from the lenders, and being part of the SROs, the self-regulatory organizations, which are also kind of representing to the regulators in terms of what the industry needs, what kind of regulatory is kind of suitable for the industry. For UAE also, these are our early days, but we are working hard to identify all the partners, identify all the relevant stakeholders, and kind of align them and work closely with them to understand what they want, and also kind of wherever we have our learnings from the other markets, probably some of those learnings we can also bring to the table, and at the least the entire technology stack, which remains relevant and compliant to the local regulations, but at the same time it has the best-in-class technology available globally. Going global was always the ambition, but obviously we had to prove to our homeland. So now given established player into the homeland in India, and also for the specific categories of the co-lending, we've achieved after more than 70% of the market share. We have started looking globally. We have a presence in Singapore. We are looking to expand in APAC as well as into the MENA region. So I think 3 to 5 years we see to work closely with into the MENA and the APAC region, work closely with all of these banks and probably create a vibrant fintech ecosystem and help the other piece, like which I was trying to explain, that as an infrastructure provider, we are not just selling a solution. We are we position ourselves as the ecosystem enabler, right? So that ecosystem, as an ecosystem enabler, the technology stack that sits on top of the legacy systems and helps the banks modernize, creates and fosters the ecosystem that banks can closely work with the other fintechs and the NBFCs. And in the run, that overall value chain gets benefited. Banks get benefit, fintechs and NBFCs get benefited, and of course the end customers get benefit, right? So that is how our position is, and which is somewhat obviously quite unique. And we look forward to do the same thing into the Middle East and specifically UAE. No, I think this was a pretty awesome platform. You see in this kind of a platform, everybody from the ecosystem are available, right? So whether those are the API providers, some local regulations, compliances, potential buyers, banks, consultants, advisors, all kind of the entire ecosystem is available. So that is something that really helps you to be able to connect to the people who can either contribute into the strategy, who can contribute to the GTM, who can contribute to the product, and of course the sales element, where you are able to directly talk to the relevant stakeholders, whether they are actually users or whether they are decision makers. So it really helps you to be closer to the market and adds to our international GTM strategy.